with Kenyan music, let's be honest for a minute. As a Kenyan, if I hear all those different genres of Nigerian music, whoever is singing, even if it's a non-Nigerian singing it, but I can tell there's some Nigerian, there's some Afrobeatish element to this.
But that's what my point is. So, like if you take Zuchu's most popular song, Sukari, the same song, same lyrics, give it to Nadia. Would you call that bongo flavor?
No, it's a Kenyan song.
No, what we need to do is take something that's working out, that take reggae, take R&B, take hip-hop, and combine it with maybe the benga guitar. I keep on insisting that because it's so signature, and come up with a sound. If you're not intentional about it, we're not going to go anywhere. That's why Bien went back to the drawing board. Sauti Sol has great sound, is a great band, okay? But they're still soul searching. What's their sound? What's the Kenyan sound?
We've talked about the ethnicization of Kenyan music, which is very tragic, and I think a lot of people in the industry don't quite have an understanding, like how deeply this affected Kenyan music. And then now there was the disaster of now piracy. River Road comes into play, and then there was there was rampant piracy that started now kind of destroying the commercial viability. I think we're in the 90s now, and that's why I was saying this was the point maybe where rumba might have started fading, because like in the 90s, when some of us were coming out. I remember that time growing up.
Where were you coming out of?
That
didn't sound right. Mika, did you hear that?
He was coming out. Sound right at all.
He was coming out.
You
Where
guys,
were you coming out of?
No, you guys don't understand this language.
Don't translate Swahili to English. Speak English.
English is like my third language.
English is when
please,
coming up.
As long as you guys understood, that's the most important thing. English is like my third language, and at least I know I speak better English than Trump, despite English being his first language.
Wow.
At the bare minimum.
Wow.
But at that time, I remember growing up, like the music, like when we were young, especially those of us growing in the city, all these musics, benga, rumba, lingala, this was old people music.
So you just put them in one pot?
We put them in one pot. In fact, to be honest, like to me, they were not different. So I could only distinguish ones where, of course, you could hear some Swahili, and then all these other songs, we put them all in one pot because we were out there.
My friend, that's the knowledge thing. Nikama, when you're in Africa, you feel everybody, Mzungu is from Europe, you can tell the accent in New York and in Louisiana when you're in Kenya.
Especially those of us who grew. Especially those of us who grew up in the city. We were tuned into American music.
Really?
We were. Yeah.
He was a hip hopper and an
I mean that was the environment that unfortunately that I was in.
That says a lot.
Like we were listening to Bone Thugs and Harmony. We're listening to Tupac Shakur.
Hata Tupac kulikuwa na vijana naitwa Criss Cross,
yeah.
Jump, yeah.
Jump.
Yeah. I think even Zanele identifies with this.
No, because there is a argument that is coming up right now that rap music was coming from South Africa. It's by Quincy Jones. I don't know if you saw that. And he was explaining to Kendrick Lamar last week. Okay. It's something new. So I don't know if you guys did a dive into that, because, like I said, music is a big thing. It's bringing us all together, but we don't have time to really know exactly.
To know where the connection is.
Where the connection is.
Just know that everything is coming from Africa.
Yeah, yeah. But back to Jojo, this time is when, because now us growing up, like that music when tunaisikia, tunajua hizo ni muziki za wazee. This is old people music. In fact, if you go to an event and you dare play, like a song, you will be kicked out, because that time people were dressing like crisscross. Jeans umevaa mbele iko nyuma na nyuma iko mbele. So, like this music, and I'm just being honest now, any kid growing up in the neighborhoods that we grew up in Nairobi at the time, we were just not, this was just not our music at all. So Jojo, talk about that a bit and how it affected the future of Kenyan music.
So I also grew up in, I grew up in Nairobi, and I'm seeing all this, these things happening. In Kenya, there was one radio station owned by the government, Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, which was, before that it was VOK, right? There was the Swahili service, and there's the English service, right? A lot of the urban kids from the wealthier neighborhoods listened to the English service and knew nothing about native Kenyan music. Nothing at all.
True.
And the kids that listened to the Swahili service were fed with a lot of Congolese music and Tanzanian music. So the Kenyan music element now, before that, Benga was the most popular, Benga, and before that, Twist, were relegated to the countryside. Hiyo kwa sasa ni muziki ya mashinani. So now people have been, in the city, you're either listening to disco music or Lingala ama rumba TZ.
But Jojo. For me, something that influenced my listening to music the most, apart from the radio, was Music Time.
Fredo Machoka. Yeah.
Yes.
And most of this music, we had it from his show. Most of this pop music, most of this hip hop music, we had it from his show. Like I remember that was a high. Music Time was a must. Lazima you watch. There will always be Kalenjin sisters. Hapo watapiga yake Kalenjin.
Katitu Boys Band.
Mosaimu wapiga yake moja ende. Kabaka na the Mushrooms wapiga Kiswahili. And maybe one of the other rumba jazzes bands. Alafu kuna Shalamwana ama Franco atapiga yake Samsukusi pigwe, but then bado kulikuwa na Whitney Houston, Vanilla Ice, Criscos, like then kulikuwa na reggae zipigwe kambi, like it was a mix of it, but then most of that modern music, that's where we, because of the video aspects of watching the video. So when KBC was the only music show, ilikuwa tunaona Music Time na Utna, that's where we could get the music during for TV. But then you're right, for the radio, then we'll listen to both services. Time ya news mnarudi Kiswahili, because lazima msikie moyo akifuta mtu kazi. Alafu mnarudi kusikia vipindi kaki na Sundown, and now depending on how you're old, what your older siblings are into, reggae time, Sundown na nini tukaito.
Okay. So before you go to Jojo, there's someone who's called. If you want to speak, please press *5. There's someone who's called. What's the last four numbers, Bandio? There's someone who's called
9503.
Last four numbers 9503. If you want to speak, press *5. And back to you, Jojo. Just to piggyback on what Mika said, remember also in this time in the 90s, KTN has come into being. And remember, KTN is only in Nairobi and a few of its environs. And there's this show that Jimmy Gadhu has. Rastrat, Rhythmics, Jamadelic. Yes, and now people are now completely leaving these other kinds of music, and now they're getting exposed to mostly American music. So Jojo, back to you.
So kuna ile place moja tulikuwa tunafaa kurudi where piracy iliingia ka destroy Kenyan music.
Okay.
So River Road was the heartbeat of Kenyan music. Na around River Road kulikuwa na studios na music labels mpaka zingine international. Kulikuwa na Polygram. which ilikuwa I believe ni Belgium ama Denmark. Sangine mi confuse hizo mbili. Because Polygram was a merger of Polydor na Philips. Where is Philips from?
Dutch, I think.
How?
Philips is Dutch.
You know? So kulikuwa na hiyo nini kubwa sana that brought everybody to Nairobi kurecord na kupress hizo vinyl. And then there was a local element. Kenyans owned a lot of music labels, especially Benga ones. One of the most popular producers, Benga producers, alikuwa anaitwa Oluoch Kanindo. So Oluoch Kanindo alikuwa na label yake ambayo aliproduce so much music that even used to be exported. Right now in Zimbabwe, Benga music is called Kanindo music.
Wow, so that came from Kenya. That came from the Kenyan producer.
In Zimbabwe, it's called Kanindo music after Oluoch Kanindo, the Kenyan producer.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, back in the day, ukiwa kina Daudi Kabaka, Fadhili Williams, the studios, the labels, like, we were one of the most progressive music countries. But then, because of this tribalization of the country and lack of protection, intellectual property protection, a lot of the labels left, the local ones went out of business, and the local music industry just died. It just died. And the tribal politics became so endemic that you in certain places you couldn't even play Benga music at all. And that gave rise to tribal superstars, if I may use that.
What do you mean by tribal superstars? Give us examples maybe so that we can understand.
So it's in Kenya, it's almost unheard of for a Ohangla musician to be playing in Moranga, performing in Moranga.
True.
Okay?
True story.
True story, right?
True story. True story.
Or a one-man guitar musician performing in Nyando. It's just not happening.
True story. Yeah.
So the divide and rule that was brought by the British colonialists, along with the politicians that took over and continued with that, has totally destroyed our music industry. A lot of the times we don't even know about it because we don't talk about it. So now, I don't know whether it was intentional or not, the mushrooming of vernacular radio stations. Ikafanya, now tribes have their own stations. Why should they bother, going to other places?
They have their own comfort zone.
In the book Nasema, when Diamond releases a song or Fally Ipupa releases a song, it goes to everybody in those respective countries. Diamond akitoa ngoma, it goes to the 60 million Tanzanians because hawana ukabila vile kwa hiyo kitu, na they understand that music because amedandia kwa foundation ya wale walikam before hao. They understand it.
There's a connection.
There's a connection. Ukija Kenya, Genge has no connection to anything.
Okay, let's pause there.
Kapuka haina connection to anything.
Okay, Genge, Kapuka, Urbanton, these new genres. Let's pause there. We're going to talk about them. There's someone who really wants to ask you a question. He's on the phone. Bandi, what are the last four numbers?
Last four numbers, 9503. Thank you for calling OneMicShow.
Tell us your name and where you're calling from, and then talk to us.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jacobo Simba from the city of the champions, Super Bowl champions, Philadelphia.
Okay. Wow. All right. Okay.
Wow. He needed to wrap it up. He needed to let us know.
Thank you, Jacob.
Yeah. Commanders were close. We came close, but next season tutakutana.
Close and winning are two different things, my friend.
Okay. All right. Talk to us, Yakobo. Big fan of rumba and benga. Talk to us.
Big fan. I am a big fan, and in fact, I'm glad that you post, George. First of all, let me preface this by saying a big thank you, because even in the chat I was saying we do a poor job of accounting for our history. So you doing it in a book is a fantastic thing. So I want to thank you for that. And from the presentation you've been giving here, it's well researched. So I want to thank you for that off the shoot. But the last point that you made before I was cued in, I have to ask. But the same can be argued about very many African countries. Tribalism and divide and rule happened everywhere. Yet a lot of these countries' music are thriving more than Kenyan music. So what could you say to that before I go to the other questions I had? Thank you.
So in Tanzania there was government intervention. In Kenya there wasn't. In Congo, there was. In Kenya, there wasn't. In Mali, there was. In Senegal, there was. I don't know much about South Africa, but you can see the connectivity from traditional music to township music to kwaito, and then to the modern sounds now, amapiano. Okay, in Kenya, that connection is not there.
It's not there. Yeah,
it's not there at all. So you start with, let's say, benga. What modern musician or band is embracing benga?
Can we say Sauti Sol? Can we say Sauti Sol? Ama Sauti Sol is an exception.
So Sauti Sol is trying, but Sauti Sol, that's why I was so happy when Ben said that on the album he's working right now, he's gone back and done research, and he's gonna have a lot of his Luya culture there. Can you imagine if he fuses R&B, because you need an international platform to go international. So you fuse R&B with Iskuti Olipala. That is what they did with, what was that song? Suranzuri or Surayako?
Surayako Nzuri Mama, yeah.
Surayako Nzuri Mama.
It's Luya sound. It's a modern Luya sound. That is what Kenya is lacking, is, hiyo ndio hakuna. Ukisikia Afrobeats imetoka kwa Fela na High Life. So there's a continuity. In Kenya, there's a total disconnection.
Okay, all right. Yakobo, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. That's a good answer. But in fact, I want to correct him a little bit that there's a lot of new modern benga artists right now in Lowland. I can name very many. In fact, there's one that normally does every year, anaitwa nani? Huja mwenye anaimba kama anasema nyatima hero, si nani. Kuna wengi sana ambao bado wanapiga benga. But the other point that I wanted to make is one thing that you and the Moshfire said earlier, that in the region, Kenyan ndio sisi tunakuanga maonabi. Tunapenda kurukaruka. Hao watu wengine wametulia na bongo yao, hao wengine wametulia na raga yao UG, hao wengine wametulia na ngoma zao. Sisi we like to imitate too much. So could you talk to that? Because you're saying tribalism, and I see your point on that. But I think that also in Kenya, we just like not to appreciate ours too much. Another point that I want to connect to your point about protection from the government is that there was a lack of emphasis in Kenya. Early 90s, late 80s, there was a lack of emphasis on the arts. Ama career za kuimba, career za kupiga ngoma, career za kufanya kitu yote ambayo sio udaktari, kuwa wakili, ama kuwa daktari fulani, ama kuwa engineer fulani. No. So you find that there's not a lot of talent of people who can play the congas, people who can play guitar, people who can play the bass guitar. So there's that element to it as well. So could you speak to those 2 points? And then the last thing that I'm going to say before I leave the line, rumba is not taking a backseat to anybody. There's very many artists that are now can film Symposia, Stadia, Peregola, Felix Ozeka, Barbara Kanam, Billy Ambel is still alive, Alpha Tess is still alive, Fali Pupa is still alive. So I think we're still in good hands. That's one time.
Okay, thank you, Yakobo. Aya, Jojo.
Mbona hujasema Fela? Bye, papas.
Maduri, hawezi tajwa tu rumba wote alafu sema Fela Gore bana Buddha.
Sawa. Okay, Jojo. Respond to Yakobo alafu tuendelee sasa. We're now slowly coming to a close to the part where we're going to be talking about Kenyan music, and this is the current music, because I think this is what a lot of people want to hear, to know what that disconnect, and you've been hinting at it. But twende Jojo, and then I'll come back to you.
Rumba is not dying.
Alisema rumba is here to stay, like it's not. I think he's disagreeing with you when you're saying that rumba took a background to so many other genres of music in Kenya. I think he's kind of disagreeing with you. I think Kenny fan wa rumba sana, so he's kind of in that mode of rumba is still very big in Kenya.
Unajua nini?
Yeah.
You know what anasema? Sitaki kumpinga sana because once kwa forum ya rumba nilijaribu kusema was Franco a singer ama rapper?
Where? That is sacrilegious.
But nilisikiza Franco. Franco doesn't really sing. Nalo. Go listen to his music. Franco doesn't really sing. He's somewhere between rapping and singing. Lakini rumba imekuwa overtaken na Afrobeats. That's true.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Lakini it's not dying. Iko. There's a time when that's like the most popular African genre. It's not now. It's Afrobeats. And it's also sad to say that Congolese musicians have never really tried to understand the American market, because here in America, they've failed big time.
Yes. And I think Congolese musicians have been comfortable in Africa and in the parts of Europe where they are popular. So to them, and they make good money. So I think it's never been, America has never been a thing for them. They've tried, we've seen Fally Ipupa come here, because when you think Fally Ipupa is very big in Africa, but he cannot pull the crowds that a Burna Boy or a Davido will pull in New York or in any other major US city. So that's just the reality. Now, moving to these modern genres, like beginning with, because now we have the new Kenyan genres that are coming up, Genge, Kapuka, and all these other variations that were coming at the time, eventually leading to Gengeton. You've been talking about the lack of connectivity. So this lack of connectivity you talk about, what is it in a lack of connectivity that makes it difficult for a genre to be accepted globally?
So one thing that everybody must understand is that music is a representation of culture. So when you're doing music, what part of your culture are you representing? What's the reason why in all these big festivals, there's never a Kenyan there? Because one of the main reasons why you don't see them is because a lot of our music is copycat music. And people, especially out of Africa, when they're inviting an artist here, they're expecting you to bring your culture with you. That's what they want to see, okay? They don't want to see an Africanized version of 50 Cent or whoever. That's where we go wrong. If we take this modern genre, because something like Kapuka was very danceable music. Like we used to play Kapuka, and even people who did not understand what it was would jump to it. But the thing, it was missing that cultural attachment, that cultural element. What is it that identifies it as Kenyan music? If they had taken that music and added that just benga guitar, because that benga guitar is so distinct, it's just Kenyan, I think it would have gone further.
But then,
go ahead.
I have an argument on that point.
Okay.
Because the thing is, as Kenya, we have never had our sound that's unique, right?
Yes.
Just the same way we've never had our traditional dress. We've never had a national food, right? Mm-hmm. We've always been, because of the tribalism, of course, we've always been a country that has several cultures and different cultures, and we've always shown on our different cultures how it is. Like, Wakikuyu wako na rurasho yao na vitu zao, Wafanya, Wajaluo wako na vitu zao, Waluya, Wakisii, Wamasai, and everybody has different things that they do. So it goes back to it does the same to our music. And I think that these younger generations, right?
Yeah.
These younger generations that it is right in Kenya, vile wako sahi. Kenya sahi Sheng inaongelewa country mzima. Kila mahali mpaka ushago. Sheng si lugha ya Nairobi pekee, right? So when they come up with their songs and they come up with what they're doing, and then as the older generation try to push them back to be hapana ingoma yenu sound fit inafaa kusound hivi, because in our generation we've tried so much to fit in everywhere else because you didn't have anything single to recognize yourself with. I feel like we are pushing them back because their sound can just be a Kenyan sound as it's known right now. Well, like inaweza continue sound ya Kenya, like that is it. We don't really need a unique thing. We have all these different things that we're doing, but when this generation does their urban tone, ama wafanye ilikuwa inaitwaje gengeton, whatever they were doing. Remember gengeton during pandemic, it transcended the whole world. It was playing everywhere. But there was a group of people who felt like, it doesn't represent us kwa sababu si feel like ni kama sheng niko in touch na hiyo sheng vile iko sana, si feel vile as in mbona wanaija wanaimba hivi, mbona sisi tunaimba hivi different, Watanzania wanaimba hivi, mbona sisi tunaimba hivi different. Like, why don't we just let it be? That is hiyo ndo sound natoka Kenya. Whatever sound come from Kenya and evolves. It's the same with America. Hip hop is a culture, but hip hop has been evolving over the years, regardless of the South. When the South is the one that is representing, ikikuja ni Northeast no represent, ikienda ni West no represent, whichever sound was hitting, was popping at that time, that was the representative of hip hop outside of the world. Why can't we just do that? The same thing that country does,
okay,
or other genres do.
Okay, Jojo, respond to me.
That's the exact reason why Kenyan music is not going international. Unakumbuka, hip hop ilianza New York, vile walianza, there was sampling R&B and other classics.
Mm-hmm.
So walidandia, okay? I've talked about how Afrobeats ilianza.
Mm-hmm.
Bongo flavor, ukiona hata Zuchu akiimba pale kuna Uswahili, kuna tarabu, kuna nini, there's a certain swag, okay?
Yeah.
Music must have it mustn't have, but the elements that make music is the sound, the swag, mm-hmm. and the dance.
Yeah.
Okay? Does it have a distinct sound? Yes or no?
If you listen to urban tone and gengeton has a distinct sound, utajua ni urban tone ama gengeton.
Now let me intervene here, and also let me give my perspective as a consumer. So mm-hmm. Tanzania, for example, they have more tribes than Kenya, but all the people who are singing from the different regions of Tanzania, there is still a certain element that you're gonna hear, and you can tell this is a Tanzanian song. Ngoja nimalize. So the thing where, like, when we're talking about gengeton, like going global, I think there's a couple of songs that went viral, and there's two different things between going global and going viral, because going global means there's a sustainable sound. You see, like if Burna Boy disappeared today, Afrobeat will still continue. If Davido disappeared today, Afrobeat will still will still continue. Same with Amapiano. Yes. So there's certain things, there's certain elements of Amapiano that you hear, despite the fact that we know South Africa has different languages and different communities, but there's a certain element of South Africanness that you can still feel in that music. I think me trying to understand, because I was in the same school of thought as Mika, but me trying, after reading what Jojo's book and trying to understand him, is that because of this disconnect, this unique sound keeps changing. Like what Kapuka sounded like, gengeton is something entirely different. What other genres, these subgenres that popped up, they're all disconnected, so there's not enough time for them to marinate and people to feel like this is a Kenyan sound. One of the sounds that's marinating is the sound that Sauti Sol have, and you see Sauti Sol are actively trying to connect the music. Jojo, back to you.
Yeah, so the disconnect that's in the Kenyan music industry is because we are not intentional about embracing parts of our culture. Music is an integral part of culture. And you cannot have a sound that's national or international if there's no distinct elements that people can identify. Okay? So the music that's coming out of Kenya, first of all, we say Kenyan music is actually Nairobi music. You leave Nairobi, na mashinani ukifika ni benga. While a lot of Nairobi musicians are complaining juu ya do, wanamuziki wa benga, especially kule Ukambani, wanacheza clubs almost every day.
Yeah.
No. So I'm not blaming these young musicians now wanafanya urban. In fact, there's a certain thing I like about urban tone. Urban tone, kitu ya kwanza, me notice ni dance. Nikiangalia hata kama wajafanya, the way they're dancing, I know these kids are Kenyan. So that's a really good thing. The other thing is they're sampling Genge music. All right. Also, Genge music had no connection. Kenyan cultural foundation. At least they're going there. So there's some kind of a future with these young artists, and then they keep on changing the names. It's Genge to now this new kid.
They're totally different.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. So this Gengeton came from Genge, okay, or influenced. Abaton is influenced by Genge, but they don't want to use the Genge, all right? And for me, Genge was not even a sound. To me, Genge was the storytelling kutoka mtaani. For the first time, nilisikia stories za mtaani that I've never had before, okay? Kapuka was more like just dance music. Lakini hii ilikuwa it gives you like a visual reflection of how the neighborhood was where you came from.
Yeah.
So that is what Genge was to me.
Kapuka was a bit upmarket neighborhood in Nairobi. Unaingia South Sea, Nairobi West. It was a bit of upmarket. Genge ilikuwa ni East Lando. Genge ni East Lando. Unaona
actually the difference between those two songs was based on studio. Kapuka ilikuwa ni watu wa Ogopa, Genge ilikuwa watu wa Kali.
Yes, and watu wa Kali ilikuwa ni watu wa East Lando. Watu wa Ogopa walikuwa ni watu wa South B, watu wa Nairobi West, watu wa South C. It was totally divided. It was totally divided by neighborhoods.
Remember that watu wa Badman Camp who walikuwa Ogopa wakatoka wali switch ngoma zao akaziita Genge.
So that was later
based on just whichever studio you are recording is where that music was coming from. So hiyo ndio ulikuwa unachagua unajicategorize wewe mwenyewe.
Yeah, and that was a bit later
but Genge ilitoka kwa watu vile Jojo amesema ilikuwa ni kina nonini watu wa mtaani, like ilikuwa kitu different, like ni gani yetu Genge yetu.
Because unaona sasa kina Isa, because I grew up in Nairobi West, I could identify with Isa's music because hizo stories zao ni za watu wa Nairobi West, South Sea, and even when this group Badman Camp ejected themselves from Ogopa, it was just a feud that happened, wakajitoa na wakaingia Genge, but hao watu wa Badman Camp kina Red Sun, I think kina Longombas, Longombas, Googs the Vilibanto were a bit unique because kina Googs were from Googs alikuwa ametoka Inako Umoja, but when you look at Nameless, when you look at the Longombas, those are all South Sea kids, do historians. Hao ni watu walikuwa Nairobi West, Nyashinsky, Nairobi West. So it also became, like kind of like a neighborhood thing. And part of the reason even watu walikata hiyo jina Genge and Kapuka came into being is because they wanted to separate themselves. But Jojo, back to you.
No, before Jojo.
Before Jojo comes in, I wanted to throw in a point. I threw in a point about Abanton, and that is why I'm insisting on this sound. It's like over the few years that I've been going back to Kenya, and every time I would go out, and even when last year we had Sunny on the here, Remember, there was one thing we were complaining. A lot of us were complaining. They don't play Kenyan music in the clubs, right? Mm-hmm. Abanton, right now, like the times I went out and the different places I went out, Abanton is played religiously. Ukwe ni mtu wa uptown, downtown, ghetto, wapi, ocha, everybody is listening to that song. All the young people have come up to pick up the song. Sijui kama ni maandamano ndio iliyoingiza kwa hiyo kitu ama ni nini, but something just made Kenyans, all of them identify to Abanton. And the beauty of Abanton is they are sampling everything. From Mugithi, warudi kwa ngoma za like we see hata kina AJ wametoa Atoti the other day. Mm-hmm. Like they've sampled Benga, and you'll find also artists like kina BN, kina Charisma, kina Suda are all singing with these Abanton musicians. So basically everybody is merging with that with that sound to work with it. And I read your book and I understood it, and I got your point when you said that lack of having a national voice is what has kept our music away. And when I started my delivery, I said one thing: the same way with our many tribes, we don't have a national dish like other countries. We don't have a national dress like other countries, because everything was divided. We've never had anything that we can say this is Kenyan. Maybe Tusker, okay. Lakini pia ufight na Pilsner. So we've never really had anything that we can say this is Kenyan.
Nyama chama.
In yetu ya Kenya, unaona. But then here right now, we are at a situation whereby we have a voice, we have a sound that actually we can push out. Because even if you look at the Nigerian voice, what do you call it?
Afrobeat
ikitokea, there was very different versions of Afrobeats. Hata sahi kuna version mbili za Afrobeats. Kuna Oja Piano, which is Niger, and Amapiano that's mixed yenye kina Shakio Push, and then kuna irregular Afrobeat kina Davido na kina nani, kina wanaitwaje, kina Davido na kina Burna Boy, and then kuna hii kina Mobad na kina Naira Marley. So they have like three different sounds that they push, but at the end of the day, because our kila kitu ya wote kwa support, we can do the same thing in Kenya. Instead of trying to look, it's too late for us to try to look for one voice. Right. We can refine our voice and mix it with our culture and send it out. That is a way of giving us better music. The way kina Shabuzi wame mix hip hop na country.
The country.
Yeah, we can do that. Instead of saying like, let's look for just one common voice, right? It's too late.
Okay.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
And I still struggle with the definition of bongo flavor as a genre. And I'm not sure if it's the singer, has to be from TZ, if it's the language, or what you just said about mixing some stuff. Because if you get Zuchu's music, and let's say instrumental, and give it to Nadia to sing, would you call that bongo flavor?
If you get Zuchu's music, instrumental,
and
give it Nadia to sing,
would you call that bongo flavor?
I'd call it Nadia's music.
If you get Focalistic, who's Amapiano, one of the great Amapiano, if you get the instrumental and give it to Diamond to sing, would you call that Amapiano? Yes.
So you see, ngoja kidogo Jojo. Ngoja kidogo Jojo. There's a song that Diamond sang, ile godolo limeloweka maji ayo waiona hiyo.
Yes.
So that song, when you hear it, you can until when he starts saying godolo limeloweka maji. So that's when you start hearing the Swahili, but you can feel that this has an Amapiano.
So that's my point.
Tune to it. Yes.
There's identity in Amapiano and Afrobeat in compa, which is what they sing nowadays. What they call bongo flavor is compa. Right? It's almost now 100% compa. If you listen to Mario's and those people, all they sing, if you just mute, right? If you mute you'll be like, this is compa, right?
Okay, yeah.
So that's my point. That's why I'm getting an issue when people say, bongo flavor is doing very well, and I ask myself, what is bongo flavor?
No, lakini I think so. Like just going back to what Jojo was saying, and I think umesema there's a caller. We're going to get to the caller. I think to what Jojo was saying is that with Kenyan music, let's be honest for a minute. as a Kenyan, if I hear all those different genres of Nigerian music, whoever is singing, even if it's a non-Nigerian singing it, but I can tell there's some Nigerian, there's some Afrobeatish element to this.
But that's what my point is. So, like if you take Zuchu's most popular song, Sukari, the same song, same lyrics, give it to Nadia. Would you call that bongo flavor?
No, it's a Kenyan song.
No, I mean
it's gonna be Nadia's song because at the end of the day, let's
Mika Ngoja, we can agree to disagree.
Okay.
Where I'm disagreeing is that when an outsider is listening to these Kenyan genres, they have no way. If you randomly give an outsider these Kenyan genres, and you see like when you put Nadia on a bongo, or like when you put a bongo artist on an amapiano, it's still amapiano regardless of whether it's a bongo artist. But what I'm saying is that layer of music with the Kenyan music, we are inside the Kenyan music scene, so we understand it. But for someone who's coming from outside, who's just listening to that beat, they will have difficulty in telling
that's
that this is the Kenyan music, and I think that's what Jojo is talking about.
No, it's the same thing about bongo flavor.
If it wasn't
for the local market, and that's what I'm saying. Bongo flavor is popular because of the local market and because the stories are related to what's happening in the country, which is the same thing that Jojo said.
Yes.
Right? When they sing about, there's some very popular song nowadays from, I don't know the name of the artist, but it's all about what's going on in the country right now. But I don't see bongo flavor as the music. It's just whether it's instrumental or whether we're playing the instruments, or if you take out the lyrics, nobody can really say this is bongo flavor. You can play just instrument and say this is on a piano, right? You can have a 1 hour mix of on a piano. You can have a 1 hour mix of Afrobeat.
Yeah.
If you take out all the stuff, you can play and say this DJ is playing 1 hour, non-stop of bongo flavor.
Yeah.
Nobody will say that.
The thing is this, and the thing is
we're gonna pick up the call.
We also being too harsh on when you're saying it. Most of these musicians that we're listening to them right now are also trying to take a modern feel, but they're also trying to transcend their borders. So most of their music is an Afro fusion of something. It's not just a voice that you can say it's their voice. It's this is our voice. Even the Nigerian musicians, they've fusioned their sound to something modern. So I get what Bandio is saying.
Yeah, Mika, my point is we give too much credit to bongo flavor.
And if you take out the musician, you will not recognize who that song is if you moved it to another side.
Yeah.
Because of that fusion that is coming in to get to that modern voice. That is why I'm saying, instead of trying to say that you're looking for a one voice right now, why don't we use in IT we use something. There's a process of working called IT, which usually tells you, instead of trying to spoil something and start from scratch, why don't you just start fixing from where you are?
I mean, it's not like we don't have it. In Bongo we have Singeli.
That's true.
Originally from there, and it was a little popular, but it doesn't sell.
Lakini Bongo, before we go to the caller, Bongo has, and I think we are missing what Jojo is saying. Bongo, despite being, slightly, it still does have some connection. Bado utasikia katara. Story-wise. But hata bado utasikia katara. No, hata kuna sounds za tara bado utasikia. Kuna certain sounds. Unaona kama Maria Salome ya Diamond. Alitoa kwa Saida Karoli.
Yes.
So you can still feel it's a Diamond song. But there's still a connection, not as strong as maybe South Africa.
But then,
not as strong as
because
no, it's not being unfair.
He sampled something.
Mika,
we
can agree to disagree.
Let's pick up the call.
Alisample ngoma fulani gonna sound Kiluya. If you sample something, it's gonna sound.
We can agree to disagree on that.
Let's go to the
call. Let's go to the call.
9503. I think this is Jacobo Simba. Karibu. Oh, Jacobo.
Jacobo alikuwa short.
No. Okay.
Oh yeah. Okay, then let's go back. Go back to Oh, there's someone else. What's last four?
9503.
Yeah, it's me again. Can I call twice?
South Alifa. Now you have to pay. Now we'll have to send you an invoice.
That sounds like advertisement.
We'll have to send an invoice.
Let's go,
Thank you, brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
I want to agree with Mika that, in fact, even as Bandio says, dispels the music that now it's compa. It's not really compa because I DJ compa, kizomba, and semba, and that is what they're playing is not compa yet. They have a sample of the instrumentals towards the end to sound like compa, but it's not compa yet. So I agree also partly with Ali, because you can say that bongo, what bongo is, it has an influence of tarab and zouk, the slow zouk. So that is very distinctively Tanzanian. If you play it anywhere in a party of Kenyans, they'll tell you that is bongo. But so let me go back to something that Jojo. I want to kick back to Jojo here because he said something that was very interesting. He said that, and I have case studies, and like I told you folks, I DJ kizomba, zouk, semba, and compa. And those music come from Martinique, the zouk, kizomba comes from Angola, semba comes from Angola, compa comes from Haiti. And within 2 minutes of playing those music, you know where it's from, and you can distinctly tell where it's from. So, Jojo said earlier that there's an intentionality to those countries that have pushed their identity. So I'm asking Jojo then, what has worked for them, and how can we mimic what has worked for them?
Great question, Jojo.
Okay, so unajua, there's two elements to music. There's the part where you're promoting yourself as an artist and where you're promoting the country or the music of the country. Okay, a lot of our musicians, and you guys were talking about Mr. Googs and Vinnie Banton, and those are the musicians that we brought here to the United States for the very first time in 2003.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so when you talk about music and intentionality, it include people we forget a lot of the time, the producers.
Yes.
Producers. There's DJs, okay? Even promoters. You have to be intentional about what you're trying to create. And you cannot be intentional if you don't know where you've come from musically or the country has come from musically. Ted Josiah really tried hard to come with an urban sound that has cultural elements to it. That's why Ismarwa is still one of my favorite albums. And that's why Gidi Gidi Maji Maji became the first Kenyan group to be signed by Gallo Records in South Africa.
South Africa, yeah.
Because they brought that, they combined hip hop and that Luo swag, and they came up with something unique. And a lot of the music that has made it internationally is a fusion of two or more sounds. Okay, you can talk about I'm trying to remember this name. The South African reggae artist who passed.
Lucky Dube. Yeah.
Okay, so Lucky Dube did reggae, but he had such a signature sound that included South African elements, especially in the keyboard thing that he took everywhere with him. That is what made Lucky Dube. He did not try to fake his accent like some of our people try to do.
Yeah.
He just remained South African and just incorporated some elements of reggae, and it went international.
And Alpha Blondy from Ivory Coast. Alpha Blondy.
Alpha Blondy from Ivory Coast. Now you come to Kenya, okay, and we have legions of reggae DJs. It's one of the most popular genres in Kenya, but we don't have a single reggae musician from Kenya that is even half recognized by half the continent. So we've been consumers. What we need to do is take something that's working out, that take reggae, take R&B, take hip hop, and combine it with maybe the Benga guitar. I keep on insisting that because it's so signature, and come up with a sound. If you're not intentional about it, we're not going to go anywhere. That's why Bien went back to the drawing board. Sauti Sol has great sound, is a great band, okay? But they're still soul searching. What's their sound? What's the Kenyan sound? And we can sit here and try to justify a lot of things, but the reason why, one of the main reasons why we are behind, it's because we are disconnected from the cultural element. And unless we reattach it, we're still going to be spinning on the same part trying to come up pali msee anakuambia nipe beat ni rap, nipe beat, lakini ni beat tu anataka. So we have to move away from that and do some soul searching. The other thing is, when you're a DJ, you're a producer, lazima kuwe ni trendsetter. Nini inaendelea hapa hivi? Now, unasema I'm blowing my, on horn, lakini what we did with the Kenyan music industry hapa, we took it by the horns and pushed it. When I started promoting events, Kenyan Bashes, there was only 2 albums, Heartstone and Kenyan the First Chapter by Ted Josiah. Kenyan DJs would not even play that music. And when you played Kenyan music, our own Kenyans sat down. They didn't want that. They wanted you to play Lingala, R&B, and other things. We forced that music until it gained momentum. Okay? I remember we introduced Kapuka here with Ridiculous came with the discs and we sold them all over the country, and KJ went on stage and showed everybody how to dance. We sold all the CDs on tour. So we have to be intentional about the things we're doing. So when you're a producer and all you're doing is just producing, you're not taking us ahead anywhere. When you're a musician and all you're doing is just nip a beat, we're not going anywhere. There has to be some intentionality.
All right. Want to remind the listeners that you're tuned in to the One Mic Show. I'm your host and producer, Ali Badawi. We are here in a very hot conversation talking to Jojo Kilimanjaro, a pioneer of Kenyan music and promotion in the U.S. He's also the author of Rumba Evolution, a book that traces how African rhythms traveled to Cuba via slave ships, then evolved and returned to shape the golden era of rumba in Congo, Tanzania, and Kenya. Of course, before being disrupted by foreign influences. He has a book launch ceremony next Friday, March the 7th from 7 p.m. at Cedar Cultural Center. We've already posted the link in the comments at 416 Cedar Avenue, Minnesota. You want to RSVP. The book is also available on Amazon. I hope you guys are, and even those who are boycotting, the boycott is today. Wait until tomorrow. But those who are boycotting it, contact Jojo directly, and he will give you options of how to purchase it directly from him.